Hi, everyone. It's Ed Lee, the founder of NewNFT.com, NOUNFT.com, a site devoted to the exciting and sometimes wacky world of NFTs. In today's episode, I'll be talking about a topic that is near and dear to me, copyright law, asking the specific question, who owns the copyrights for the works underlying NFTs? Also, what exactly are you buying when you buy an NFT? It's something that's sort of a head scratcher once you dive deep into the details of these transactions. Okay, let's first turn to the question, who owns the copyrights to works underlying NFTs? The basic answer is the NFT creator does, even after the sale of the NFT to a buyer. Now, to understand this answer, we need to review some basic principles of copyright law. And I will start first with an old example involving the analog world. So Picasso is one of my favorite artists. Picasso painted this painting, Mother and Child, in 1912. It was copyrighted, and the copyright lasted for many years. It has since expired, but for our purposes, we're going to analyze it as if the copyright is still in force. At some point, the Art Institute of Chicago purchased this painting, and you can go see it at the Art Institute in Chicago at your next visit. And I would commend it to everybody whenever you visit Chicago next. Now, under the copyright law, the Art Institute, as the buyer of a copy of a copyrighted work, has certain rights to use the copy that has been purchased. So one of those rights is a limited right of public display of the work at the place where the physical copy is located. So here, the physical copy is the painting, and the painting is in the Art Institute, so you can publicly display it there. In addition, the Copyright Act recognizes what's called the first sale doctrine, which gives the buyer of a lawful copy of a copyrighted work the right to further distribute that copy, such as by sale or rental of that copy of that work. So if the Art Institute wanted to sell the Picasso painting, it could do so under the first sale doctrine. Okay. Now, notice under this sale of the painting, the copyright has never transferred over because the copyright is different from the physical copy that where the underlying work is embodied here in the canvas that Picasso painted on. That goes to the Art Institute. Picasso retains the intellectual property in the form of copyright to the underlying work of authorship. So Picasso, in this example, is the only one who can sue for copyright infringement if others, third parties, are trying to make copies of this work when the copyright was still in force. The Art Institute, as the buyer of the physical painting, did not obtain any copyright interest and therefore has no standing to sue for copyright infringement for any alleged infringement of the underlying work. Okay, terrific. If you're with me this far, that is wonderful. And now we will bring in greater complexity by looking at NFTs and sales of NFTs. This gets more complicated than the analog example. Okay, let's imagine I have created a pictorial work here called Blondie. Okay, I obtained the copyright for this pictorial work. And given the craze, kind of like a gold rush for NFTs today, I decide I want to capitalize on that market by selling an NFT associated with this pictorial work. So I'm going to sell the NFT, which is identified on blockchain as a unique item, a token that keeps track of all transactions related to this NFT. And I will put it on sale, let's say on OpenSea, one of the big platforms for the sale and purchase of NFTs. And notice here, though, the NFT is different from the underlying work. It's different from a copy of the underlying work. It's also different from the copyright to my underlying work. It is a token that is identified on blockchain, and that is what I am selling on OpenSea. And let's say the Art Institute loved my work and paid, millions for it, buying the NFT. What they are purchasing is just this token. Well, not just this token, the token plus some associated rights of use to the underlying work that is associated with my NFT. And I've taken a quick look at a survey of some of the standard contracts used for sales of NFTs. It's fairly typical to include the right of the buyer to resell the NFT. I can't imagine a circumstance in which there is no right to resell the NFT that has been purchased. That is primarily a reason why people are buying NFTs. They want to buy low and sell high. They want to make a profit. So if they could not have a right to sell the NFT, then I don't know what the value of the NFT would be. Another common right that is included by contract of the parties is some forms of public display of the underlying work associated with the NFT. And that typically includes the public display on the platform where it was purchased. Let's say it is OpenSea. It may include uses on social media for the social media account of the buyer. And I'll show you a common practice that has been developing with uses of underlying works associated with NFTs, using them as a Twitter avatar. But this is something that is governed by the contract, and it doesn't automatically mean that the buyer can publicly display the underlying work, here, Blondie, wherever the buyer wants to. That will be set forth in the purchase agreement. And then finally, it's important to figure out if the contract, the purchase contract, says anything about commercial uses of the underlying work. Some contracts forbid or prohibit the buyer from making any commercial uses of the work. So I couldn't, if I'm the buyer, let's say, of this work, I couldn't make a t-shirt and sell t-shirts of the underlying work, this Blondie, even though I had purchased, let's say for a lot of money, I had purchased the NFT associated with the underlying work. Now, some sales contracts do include a limited scope of commercial use for the buyer, but that is something that is all determined by the contract. So the parties could negotiate, but if there's no negotiation, it would be whatever the standard contract includes in terms of commercial use. Now, here is the example of one of the common practices of public display that a buyer is getting with some sales of NFTs, and that is to use it as an avatar in social media, especially on Twitter. Twitter, in fact, announced this week that they are trying to develop functionality with NFT platforms to integrate functionalities so that a buyer could incorporate an underlying image associated with the work purchased with the NFT. So here, Steph Curry, for instance, purchased an NFT from the Bored Ape Yacht Club collection and used as his avatar on Twitter an image or a copy of the underlying work that was associated with the NFT. But just to underscore again, Steph Curry purchased the NFT, the token. Steph Curry did not purchase the underlying work, and that, or even a copy of the underlying work. That's what makes it different from even the Picasso example. So this is not governed by copyright law. Now we are completely in the realm of contract law. Okay. Now, to round out the comparison, in the sale of the NFT, I, as the creator of the underlying work, retained my copyright to the underlying work. So I am the only one who can sue for copyright infringement related to unauthorized uses of Blondie. The Art Institute, which purchased my NFT, has no copyright interest through the simple sale of the NFT. So in this respect, it is similar to the analog example of selling a Picasso painting to the Art Institute. Now, maybe this is surprising to some of you. I think it was surprising when I first learned about this, that it seems like it's maybe like a dirty little secret in the sale of NFTs. The sale of NFTs involves only, technically speaking, buying a digital token that's on blockchain. And it may be associated with artwork or underlying works, but that is typically not being sold as a part of the NFT sale. Not even a copy of the underlying work. That will be governed by the terms of the sales contract. What uses can the buyer make of the underlying work associated with an NFT? Typically, a right of resale of the NFT, also some limited forms of public display, but copies are not guaranteed, nor is commercial use guaranteed under these contracts or typically provided. Okay, just to recap what we've learned today about the sale of NFTs in contrast with the sale of a copy of a copyrighted work. Once you sell a copy of a copyrighted work, the Copyright Act recognizes certain limited uses for the buyer of that copy of the copyrighted work. Here, Picasso's painting, a limited right of public display where the physical copy is located, and also under the first sale doctrine, the ability to sell or rent that particular copy to others. By contrast, once you purchase an NFT that is being sold, you are really purchasing just the token, the non-fungible token that is on blockchain, and then all of the uses that you as the buyer can make of the underlying work that is associated with the NFT is determined by the sales contract. So that is something that is far different from what happens in the analog world with a physical copy of a copyrighted work. Okay, so that's it for today's episode. Please do check us out on our website, nounft.com. Stay tuned for further episodes on our YouTube channel, and hopefully you do subscribe to stay tuned for our next episode.